Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart for those of you that are new, and today I'll be breaking down this five-game NBA slate we have here for Tuesday night. 100K up top to first place as usual. I'll be talking through my favorite plays, how I'm attacking the slate, a game-by-game breakdown, and a potential early look build for you guys here tomorrow. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Check out my Patreon link down below if you guys want updated core plays once we get the news closer to tomorrow's lock, as well as a little mini write up of the entire slate and how I'm looking to attack it. But yeah, that is the intro there. So let's get right into it. This is a little five-game slate. Before I do, just want to recap tonight. So tonight's still ongoing. Obviously, we have the Monday Night Football game here between the Chiefs and the Eagles, and it's a good game. So I'm getting this out during halftime here. But for the core plays for tonight, last night they were fantastic. Once again, tonight they are off to a fantastic start here. Miles Bridges, they're obviously super chalky, but he was one of the core plays, 44 fantasy points there. Obviously, overtime helped a little bit. Jason Tatum, I'm not sure why this man was only 3% owned against Charlotte Hornets. He dropped a 51 bomb there in the first half. 77 overall, 45, 13, and 6. Absolutely fantastic play there for us. And then my other core play was Anthony Edwards, who got off to a very slow start there. He's starting to pick it up there in the second half. Unfortunately, it looks like it's a 20-point blowout right now. So that's very frustrating. I think it was like a 2-point game at halftime. And it looks like they've probably gone on like a 20-0 run. So hopefully that game can kind of stay close there because that'll be very frustrating if he doesn't get to at least like 40 fantasy points there. But yeah, a very, very, very solid night so far for me. Hoping to, kind of sneak into maybe a top 50 here for tonight here. Got a bunch of low owned plays here. Lowry's doing decent. Caruso's doing decent. Unfortunately, Sengun got ruled in. So Jeff Green hopefully sees 15 minutes with no Eason. Hopefully he can do something there. And hopefully, Nas Reed and Anthony Edwards can kind of step up. And here's my other lineup. I went with, Pritchard, Anthony Edwards, Tatum, Giannis. I kind of got screwed there with Jock Landell. I was just hoping for Sengun to be ruled out, and then Najee, Gallinari, and Caruso. So looking like a pretty solid overall night for me there for tonight. Heading into tomorrow's game here, we have the Raptors and Magic, 1 point spread, 216 game total. Not the best there. Cavs, 76ers, 7.5 point spread, 220.5 game total. Pacers, Hawks, looks like a very, very juicy game there. 3.5 point spread, 250 game total. That's the highest, I think, game total we've seen all season so far. Absolutely no defense going to be happening there. And then Blazers, Suns, 13-point spread, 225. And then Jazz, Lakers, 8 point spread, 236 game total there. So a good amount of juicy games here for this slate. But heading into this first game here, this first matchup, Toronto versus Orlando. For those of you that don't know, Orlando is the best defensive team in the league right now, which is kind of surprising, but they do have a lot of good pieces there. But yeah, right now, Scotty Barnes, 8.9K. I mean, we know what we're getting from Scotty Barnes. You could pretty much lock him in for about 40 fantasy points, maybe a little bit more. Does everything for this team right now. Not coming off the best two games there, 29 and 39, but still, he's an absolute beast. So I think he's a very strong play. Pascal's more of that boomer bust risky option there. 8.2K, don't love it, but he's been stepping up a little bit better recently. I think it's fine, but I'd still rather get to Scotty, who offers, probably a higher ceiling and he's a safer floor. Schroeder, I still think is a pretty solid play, 6.4K. Not getting him at a discount, but he's one of those guys that can flash that double-double upside with points and assists. And he's been shooting the ball pretty well recently. 9 and 19, 8 of 15, close to 50% the past two games after having, a pretty rough stretch there for 3 games where he was shooting very, very bad. So I think Schroeder's a pretty solid play here. OG 6K. I mean, I think we can lock OG in for mid 30s minutes, and it doesn't make him necessarily the best play because sometimes he's not the best point per minute guy, but still, he should be aggressive when he's out there. He can get those defensive stats. I like him a good amount at 6K here. It's kind of like my second favorite play on the Raptors right now. Portal is always in play, but it's one of those things. Can he see close to 30 minutes? If he can, he usually has a very, very productive game. Orlando does have some size here, so I do think we can probably see Portal get to about 30 minutes, foul prone, but very, very productive guy when he's out there. Gary Trent Jr. should come off the bench here with OG back. He's a fine play at 4.8K, very score independent. So he's more so just kind of a contrarian GPP option. Precious all the way down to 4,000. I actually think he's a pretty solid value play here. Going to see about 20 minutes, usually decently productive, anywhere from 15 to 20 fantasy points. Anything more than that is obviously very, very good. So Yeah, I think he's a very solid value. Same thing here with Chris Boucher, another very foul prone guy, but he's also very productive when he's out there. Should see around 15-ish minutes as well. So those both like really, really solid values as of right now. And I don't think we really need to get to anyone else. Malachi Flynn has been getting a good amount of minutes off the bench there. I guess you can land on him if you want, but still don't feel the best about him. And then they will throw in Otto and Gary and Grady Dick for some minutes, but nothing too crazy there. For Orlando side here, obviously the big news is Fultz is still out. So with him still out, it obviously makes Franz and Paulo. This is both really, really a solid plays still because the offense is going to run through them. I actually really like the price tag here on Franz, 6.5K. Hasn't really flashed like too high of a ceiling, only 41.5 so far for his highest game of the season, but still one of those guys who's pretty stout all around. So do have a good amount of interest in him. Paulo's obviously the guy with the higher ceiling. So both pretty solid plays here, both pretty interesting. Nothing really stands out too much to me right now, though, for the Orlando side. Cole Anthony, minutes have kind of been all over the board, but one of those guys who's going to be super aggressive off the bench, can stuff the stat sheet. So he's probably looking like my favorite play right now on the Orlando side. And Jalen Suggs is not too far behind him for me. I know the minutes haven't been the best recently, 27 and 18, but if you can see close to 30 minutes, he usually is decently productive. Not the best shooter, but can stuff the stat sheet with steals there. Pretty solid defensively. So do have a good amount of interest in both those guards there. Goga, one of those guys, as I said, if he can play more minutes, he'd be a great play, but I think he's priced about right for the minutes he's getting. He's been productive, very, very productive in those minutes so far this season, but still, it's just not the best play, not the worst. I think he's just kind of shoulder shrug play there at 5,000. Mo will be splitting the center minutes with him. I still think I'd rather take a shot on Mo, even though Goga's been a little bit better and more productive. Isaac, his minutes are starting to become more and more solid, more and more safe and secure. One of those guys, as I said, he's very, very productive when he does get the minutes usually. So 15 minutes for Jonathan Isaac. They'll probably need him against, Toronto. Toronto does have, a decent amount of like tall 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" guys. So I do think we'll see some decent minutes there for Jonathan Isaac is a pretty strong value. And same thing with Gary Harris. I don't trust his productivity, but as you can see, he's been very productive since coming back from the injury the past two games there, 33 and 21.5. So he's there. Not my favorite value play, but at 4,000, you can definitely land on him. And that's really it for me. They will mix in some, Joe Ingles, but it's pretty gross there. Moving on to the Indiana side here. Obviously looking like the best game to target overall. Tyrese Halliburton, obviously, that had a very, very rough game there against Orlando. I expect a huge bounce back game here for him. Obviously, that double-double upside. Miles Turner going to be more so of a contrarian mid-range play. Don't mind him. He does have huge upside. And then I just don't know what to do with these, guards and wings. Bunny Hill's been terrible. Bruce Brown does offer a ceiling, but still not the best offensively. Mathurin is probably the safest option in this mid-range group out of the Pacers, but I mean, they're all kind of there. I don't really have a strong take here. Obi's been getting more minutes recently. Naismith's minutes have kind of been all over the board. His plays have been all over the board. TJ McConnell's starting to get more minutes now. It's just like, there's not a lot to like here for this side. Jalen Smith is back. So I'd probably say my favorite plays would probably be Jalen Smith and Benedict Mathurin as kind of the value plays here for the Pacers side. Nembhard is questionable. Obviously, if he's back, it kind of eats into TJ McConnell's minutes and eats into these other guys' minutes. So a lot of grossness in this kind of range here for the Pacers, but I'd say the safest place would be Jalen Smith. TJ McConnell, if there's no Nembhard, he'd be the backup point guard. He'd actually be pretty solid. And then as well as Benedict Mathurin. Otherwise, I just really stick to the two main guys at the top. For Atlanta here, I think it's a pretty solid price tag here on Trae Young. He's just been pretty consistent. Hasn't really flashed like a massive ceiling since that Orlando game there. But otherwise, kind of been around 45 fantasy points per game. So 9.1K, I think that's a pretty solid play. DeJounte Murray, kind of more of that contrarian play there. Coming off of two terrible games there after a 60 bomb there with no Trae Young. So I think it's a fine contrarian play if you're looking to get different. Jalen Johnson, one of those guys who's great for me that last slate. One of those guys who can flash a huge ceiling there. So one of those, very, very productive guys, stuffs the stat sheet. Do have a good amount of interest in him. Capella, not in play for me. I mean, he can flash those games we saw last slate. 29 minutes, almost a 40 bomb. But, I mean, he's just not seen a ton of minutes for me. He's not good offensively, so I just don't think there's a need to play him. Bogdan's been more aggressive off the bench. He's seen a good amount of minutes recently, so I think he's a fine play, 5.6. Hunter's more so the contrarian GPP option if you want a super low-owned guy. Don't love going there, but he's there. Okongwu should see the backup center minutes, about 20. I think he's an okay play there. his price has come up a bit. And I still have a good amount of interest in Sadiq Bey here. He's been pretty productive, playing a good amount of minutes off the bench and only 4.6K. So he's looking like the best point per dollar play as of right now on the Hawks. But overall, I like him. I like Brogdon. I like Jalen Johnson. I like Trae Young. Moving on to Cleveland here. Donovan Mitchell is going to be still out here. So Mobley should step up offensively a little bit more. He's actually been pretty solid the past 3 games, as you can see. Has been stepping up. Does have that upside with the blocks and the double doubles. So he looks pretty solid here, even in a tough matchup. Darius Garland, same thing. Hasn't flashed a huge ceiling, but we know he can easily go for 40 plus, especially if he's hitting the shots. So I expect him to once again be aggressive, lead this team offensively. So good amount of interest in him here at 7.6. Same thing. If Levert's back, I do really like him here off the bench. He was very low owned that last slate when there was no Donovan Mitchell. I'm not really sure why, because he's going to see 30 plus minutes and he will be very aggressive off the bench there at 6.8K. So I do have a good amount of interest in him. And I actually, really like Strus as well. He was coming off a great game there against Detroit. Disappointing game there against Denver. But once again, with no Donovan Mitchell, he should shoot the ball a ton, can stuff the stat sheet with the rebounds and assists as well. So good amount of interest in all 3 of those guards there and Mobley for Cleveland. Jared Allen's more so just a contrarian play. He's finally seeing close to 30 minutes a game. So I do think he's in play. He does have a ceiling, but obviously there's foul trouble risk guarding Embiid. Niang is seeing decent minutes off the bench there, so he's a solid value because they're pretty shorthanded with no Okoro and no Donovan Mitchell. Dean Wade, he's in the spot start, but he's been terrible. So I guess if you want to land on him, he's more of a risky play. And then, Craig Porter Jr. is actually a pretty solid value play. He's been extremely productive. I don't know if you can expect that sort of production out of him for that to continue, but still 3.8K. And as you can see, he does have a good amount of upside. So I'm expecting him to be super chalky, but it's hard to deny his productivity right now. Moving on to Philadelphia here. Obviously, a really good matchup here for Embiid. Looks like a great play. Same thing with Maxey. Price is coming down a tad. Still think he's a very good play. I mean, it's just him and Embiid. That's pretty much the team here. Tobias Harris has kind of been sneakily pretty solid so far this season as the kind of the third option. I don't love the price tag there for him, but it should be a good matchup for him overall. Melton been a little bit better recently as well, as you can see, kind of flashing his ceiling. This is kind of what I talked about for the beginning of the season. Like he does have good upside there, and he should become more aggressive. Obviously, it helps that Kelly Oubre is not in the lineup right now, so Melton's they're going to need him more offensively. So I think it's a decent play, not the best, not the worst. Covington, move back to the bench there because Batum is back. So I prefer getting to Batum if he's going to start again. Looks like he should get mid-20s minutes. Not the best point per minute guy there, but I think he's a solid value play for a guy who should start. They'll also mix in Reed and Covington off the bench there, so nothing too crazy in terms of value for Philly. It's really just the main 3 guys, and that's really it. Moving on to Portland here. Brogdon is off the injury report, so it looks like he should be good to go. I actually really like him here if there is no minutes limit. Now, if there's a minutes limit, if it's like 25 or less, no interest in him there at that price tag. If it's 30, maybe I would land on him, but really want to get to him if there's no minutes limit. So let's just assume for right now there is no minutes limit. Going to throw him in there. Grant, fine option there. Nothing really changes. Still think Sharp's a pretty solid play. One of those guys who should see close to mid to high 30s minutes there as kind of the secondary option behind Brogdon. Ayton, always just random contrarian play there. He's been very up and down recently. Mays, with Brogdon probably back, don't have much interest in Mays here. He should move back to the bench. And that kind of crowds the bench a little bit. They'll probably start Kamara once again, which is a fine value play, but he's been very up and down. Not going to be aggressive. Off the bench, Jabari Walker should get about 15-ish minutes. I think he's an okay value play. Thibault, same thing, okay value play. He's one of those guys who can flash a ceiling like once every 10 games. And that's really it. Not a ton of interest there in Portland, besides Brogdon at the top for Phoenix. I see a great matchup here. Just hope this game stays close. If it does, going to be because of Durant and Booker going off. Durant had the better game. Booker not shooting the best there that last game, 8 of 21, but still almost went for a double-double there. So really like Booker here once again. Obviously, the offense is running through him and Durant, so they both look fantastic. Nurkic is more so of a contrarian mid-range play. Don't think there's a need to get to him. Obviously, he does have a ceiling revenge game narrative if you guys are into that. 6.3, pretty solid play here. Obviously, going against Ayton, so maybe there's going to be a little bit of beef. They got traded for each other. Who really knows? But yeah, I do really like Nurkic at 6.3 if you're looking for kind of a mid-range center play. And for the other guards here on the Suns, This game did go to double overtime, so the minutes are a little bit wild for some of these guys. I think Eric Gordon's a okay play. Like same thing with Grayson Allen. You can't really trust those minutes overall in a normal game. They should see around, I'd say about 30ish minutes for both of them, which makes them fine plays at the price tags. Really comes down to can they hit their shots because otherwise Durant and Booker are going to do all the playmaking and Nurkic is going to eat up all the rebounds. So it's really hard to get to Allen and Gordon and feel safe about it. I think Eubanks is a fine value play there. Hasn't been the best recently, but he should get about 15 to 20 minutes, and he's usually pretty productive. Bates Diop should see around 15 to 20 as well. I think it's an okay value. I'd rather get to Eubanks, and that's really it. They will mix in some Okogie and Goodwin, but nothing crazy. And then moving on to the last game here, Lauri Markkanen was a fantastic low-owned core play for us in the Patreon there. That last game, obviously double overtime helped, but he dropped basically a 70 bomb there, 69. So once again, I think he's a great contrarian spin-up option. Clarkson's been very, very good recently, as you guys can see, 40 plus, and was it 5 straight games. So yeah, if you want to ride the hot streak there with him, I mean, he shot 8 of 23 and still went for 40 plus. So he's been very, very productive recently. Don't love the price tag, but once again, if this game stays close, it's probably going to be because of Lauri and Clarkson there. Collins a fine mid-range play. Once again, the minutes are out of whack because of the double overtime game, but he should see low 30s, maybe mid 30s if he stays out of foul trouble. Does have that double upside. Keontae George should start again. Should play low, high 20s, low 30s. He's been strong, pretty much averaging 30 fantasy points per game right now as a starter. So I still think he's a pretty solid player at 5.5. Kelly O, I do have an interest in him, obviously, because there's going to be some foul trouble risk there for a guy like Collins and Lauri trying to guard AD. So you can definitely take a shot on Kelly O and some GPPs there. He's usually pretty productive. Horton Tucker can't have those random pop-off games there, but once again, minutes are always in question. He should come off the bench, play about 20. If he's going to do very well, obviously they'll extend him, but I don't think there's a need to get to him at 4.6. I'd rather take a shot in Sexton, who his minutes are always guaranteed, should see around 20, and it's one of those things he'll get extended as well if he's playing well. But yeah, the minutes are kind of just a huge question mark for both of them, so they're not the best plays. Baji has been getting the starts. If he starts again, I guess he's a fine value, but once again, he's just not shooting the ball a ton there. More so just a defender out there for them. And Fontecchio, whatever you want to call him, Mr. Italian man. I'm not even sure if he's Italian. Just sounds like an Italian last name. But yeah, he should see about 10 to 15 minutes dart throw range if you want to get to him. And then moving on to the Lakers here. Absolutely love the matchup here for AD. He should be good to go. Same thing with LeBron. He's questionable, but hopefully they should both be good to go. Otherwise, we're going to play around the fact that it might not be LeBron. He has said he's dealing with some injuries, so maybe they could see him taking this game off. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, absolutely love the matchup here for both of them. That minutes limit thing was just a lie for LeBron. I mean, the dude's averaging like 35 minutes a game this year. So, I mean, Darvin Hammer's lying. But yeah, love AD in this matchup here against Utah. D'Lo, I think he's priced about right. He's been up and down, but he's flashed the ceiling. He's off the bench. Now he's starting to get into that range that I do have interest in him at 5.7K. Radish, he's seen the minutes. He's an okay value play. I think there's better plays to get to. Not going to be aggressive offensively. Rui's finally seen the minutes, so I do think he's a decent value play there off the bench for 4.5K. Wood, just not in play for me. He just hasn't been great, not shooting the ball. Torian Prince is one of those contrarian value plays. He can pop off if he hits his shots. He is usually aggressive from 3. So you can definitely get one of those games where he goes for like 20 real life points and definitely pays off that price tag at 4,000 because they are still pretty short there with no Vincent. Obviously, if Vanderbilt is back, he'll probably eat into some of Hachimura and Woods minutes, maybe a little bit of Reddish there. So it will crowd kind of that front court a little bit there for the Lakers, but nothing too crazy, and definitely would knock down Hayes there. But yeah, overall, that is the slate breakdown, guys. Hope you guys liked the video. I will have updated core plays on my Patreon link down below, so make sure to check that out. Hit that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.